Hello everybody, welcome to another True Review. Today I'm bringing you Vaccine on the Xbox One. It releases 21st of February. It's going to be priced at $9.99 in the US, and I think the UK price will probably be about $7.99ish, something to that effect. Now what we have here is a game that pays homage to Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil, the not the remake or anything, the old PS1/Saturn game. And it will all depend how much you like this, depending if you experience that genre of survival horror firsthand. I, for one, played the hell out of those kind of games. I even played some really obscure ones as well, like there was a Ring game, believe it or not, which kind of like took that kind of vein. And if you've played one of those games and came from the era, you'll probably get this game and get where it's coming from. If you haven't, you're probably not going to get this game at all and not really like it that much. I mean, let me just try and explain to you. As a homage to Resident Evil, it worked perfectly. It's spot on. The graphics are that era, the controls are that era, all the annoyances that came with that there as well, like the inventory management, tank controls, poor camera angles that hide enemies, hard to aim shots because of the camera angles again. Everything that came with that is present in this game. But if you're judging it from a modern point of view, you're just not going to get this game at all. It's one of those, it's a complete Marmite game for everybody. But anyway, onto the game itself. What you have here is kind of like an arcade time attack survival horror game. You pick a male or female character who have a little bit different stats at the start. Your partner has been infected by an unknown virus. You start off in a bedroom in a mansion, where your partner's convulsing on the bed there, and you've got 30 minutes on the clock to find the vaccine. You don't get it within the 30 minutes, your game is over, your partner dies. So it's a very, very quick fire game. There's no like in-depth story adventure like the Resident Evil games. It's more of a quick fire arcade take on survival horror. What really is interesting about this game though is every time you play, the mansion is randomly generated from a selection of rooms, so no two playthroughs are exactly the same. So you start off using the tank controls where you rotate around and push up to move forward, and you start off with just a knife. You have to try and get through the rooms and find the actual lab in there. Now, because of the random generated nature of this, that can be several rooms away. It can be a hell of a lot of rooms away. All the objects are randomly generated, the ammo, the pickups, the weapons, the items that give you temporary buffs, the healing items, they're all randomly generated. Usually what has to happen is you usually have to find a gold and silver key, and they generally, although not all the time, will lead you on the correct path and lead you to the lab. Although, like I say, because of the random generated nature of it, that doesn't always actually happen. There's various bits of story pieces to pick up through journal entries and ripped out diary pages and research notes for you to try and piece together what's actually going on. And I do stress that you do actually read those, because they do actually contain certain clues of how to play the game and how to actually advance in the game in a different way and a proper way to actually learn the full story and extent of what's going on in this game. In terms of enemies, well, looking at not many enemies to choose from, to be honest with you. There's your regular run-of-the-mill zombies. There's these things called crawlers, which unless you have a gun or a repellent buff which makes them not attack you for a very short period of time, they will kill you almost instantly. There's also mutated rats, and there's also bats as well that attack you, as well as something else which I won't go into to mention, otherwise it'll spoil things for you. So literally 30 minutes, find the vaccine, get back to your teammate, give him the vaccine. What happens then, you might say? Is this a 30-minute game? No, it's not, because once you do that, you then advance to the second round, where a new randomly generated mansion is created for you, but this time you have 20 minutes to find it and do everything in it. So on and so forth. I've only managed to get to the 4th iteration, and I was down to 9 minutes to actually get the vaccine and get it back to my partner. So it gets quite intense towards the end. Now graphically, spot on for the era of what it's trying to replicate, much like the pixel art games and the voxel games that are quite popular at the moment. This went out to replicate that kind of era's graphics of Resident Evil, and it nails it spot on. It nails it spot on. You can't fault it for that. Yes, by today's standards it looks pretty ropey and pretty hideous, but go back and play the original Resident Evil now, and you would think the same thing. And like I said, that's why you're only really going to appreciate it fully if you have come from that era of video gaming. Sound wise, I actually love the sound in this. The tune that plays throughout gets a little bit repetitive, but it does fit, and it is very eerie and foreboding, and especially when you are on some of the later playthroughs where the timing is very, very strict, it actually helps build the tension up. Achievement wise, we're looking at going to be a very difficult list, because you have to advance through the ranks, which you get 1 rank for every version of the mansion you solve. Problem is, you die, you're back to square one again. You've got to start again from the beginning, and I think there's 9 different ranks and 9 different versions. And as I say, it already gets pretty hairy on the 3rd version of the mansion, let alone the 4th, which I failed on, and I hate to think what the 9th version is, or the end version is of it. That's going to be a very, very strict time limit. Now, the game's not without its faults because of the random generated nature of the game. It does create scenarios which seem to be an automatic fail. As I mentioned earlier, there's an enemy called a crawler, which, if you haven't picked up a gun and leveled your character up, because that's something you also do in this game, you actually level up through experience that you gain from killing enemies. If you haven't found a gun and leveled your aiming skills up a little bit, you're pretty much not going to kill one of these crawlers. And the only other way to circumvent it is to have a repellent spray, which stops the enemy from attacking you, and you then have time to actually knife it to death or kill it by some other means that you have at your disposal. But like I said, the big problem is with the game, because it's randomly generated, it doesn't always generate you a gun or a repellent. So when you start to encounter these things about 10 or so rooms in, it's instant death and got to start again, which is a little frustrating because there's nothing you can physically do about it. Hopefully this can be tweaked for maybe a patch, maybe where the developer can actually increase the drop rate, so I guarantee you are going to get a gun to some extent to be able to aim yourself, because it's once it happens it's frustrating, but when it happens 2, 3, 4 times on the spin, it starts to grate a little bit. Nevertheless, I really enjoyed this game, and as I say, it all depends on what era of video gaming that you come from when you're judging this game. If you're judging it as a homage to Resident Evil, a quick arcade pick up and play fix there where you can have a quick 30-minute jaunt at it, or a nice little time attack mode to it as well, then this succeeds hands down. As I say, if you're coming at it from never played that era of survival horror games, you're going to think this game looks a little bit on the iffy side, a little bit on the messy side. So I imagine this game is going to get reviews across the whole spectrum, but for me, I personally love this game. It's fun, and it's challenging, it's frustrating at times as well, but it brings back memories, and it just feels like the survival horror game I never played on my PlayStation 1. So for that reason, I'm giving Vaccine a 4 out of 5. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll catch you on the next one.